Hi, I'm Trever Church. My name originates from the 11th century when some guy named Henry
Give me that pig. You're not gonna get the pig. It's my pig.
fought with another guy over a pig at a church.
What if I don't want to give you the pig?
So his name was Henry at a church. And then at some point they dropped it, shortened it to church. My very first memory is when I was about 3 years old. I was hanging onto my crib and I was looking out and there was a full moon. And I started singing, but I didn't know any words at the time. I just remember, kind of, ooh, whatever. And I felt so full, so complete, I felt like the moon sang back to me. Now that doesn't mean I ever thought the moon was God, but that was my first memory and my experience of God. That's the baseline that I never compromised on my entire life, is that I wanted to know that feeling again, that feeling of completeness. Now the warmth of that, the memory of that sustained me all the way through my childhood. That's why I kind of got into books, because I wasn't good at communicating with people. One of the most profound books of my life was Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. It's a story about the first humans to go to Mars. It gave me a lot of new concepts. And at that time, I had not read any secular books, apart from Hardy Boys or The Black Stallion, Little House on the Prairie. These are the kind of books I learned to read on. My dad, his stage name was Terry Noland with a D. His first band was called the 14s, and then he went solo from there. He went off and he started making records, got on American Bandstand. Buddy Holly's Last Letter was to my dad, and when Buddy Holly's plane crashed, my dad just kind of lost heart. My dad knows the Hollies, their family, when they were kids. They went to the same church, and they were a few years apart, but my dad was doing the same thing as Buddy Holly. He just hadn't gotten his band together yet. Eventually, he moved out of Lubbock and went to California. And he tried to get into the music scene there, but there was too many drugs. He wasn't comfortable with it. He's passionate about himself. I went through sixth grade at Moore Christian Academy, and then I went to Christian Heritage Academy. I guess I was 13 or so. We had a class called So What's the Difference? It was supposed to be a comparative religion class. But in Christianity, and especially evangelicals, all they do is debunk everything, and I started asking questions. And they started giving me the same damn answers they always had. You just have to have blind faith. The things that I experienced growing up, and especially in Christian Heritage, the types of gaslighting that they did, or they would give me the impression that I wasn't broken enough. The bottom line is I never got my questions answered. I always left questioning myself. I was a lost kid. I was 17 when I graduated high school, and I was gone from my parents' house within a week. Occasionally, I would rent a place. I had a few places, but I don't think I stayed in one place for 6 months until I joined the Navy at 21 years old. I was working as a waiter at Denny's late at night, and a Marine recruiter came in to eat, talked to me about joining the Marines. When I was in the Gulf, man, that was beautiful. I was on an outside sponson. It's a platform welded to the side of the ship. And I was stationed there during our whole time in the Gulf. And to stand outside on the deck wash, that's what they call the non-skid, and just feel the wash from the afterburners when they launch off the deck, which is like 2 stories above you. And it's an amazing thing to behold. I saw oil fields burning. I saw flying fish. I signed up for a 6-year tour. 3.5 years in, got a TBI, traumatic brain injury. So I chose to go home, and I knew I had family business there, and I figured I'd get started with that. I tried so hard to submerge myself in the Christian religion for so many years. And after I got done seeking, when I got married and started going to church again for my wife's sake, I pursued God in every direction Christianity had available for me. When my wife left me for a pastor, my whole world was shattered. I had lost my business, and then I lost my family and my faith. And I had a mental breakdown completely. I mean, it absolutely shattered my soul. And so I went to see a doctor and paid him and followed the psychiatrist's advice and tried one thing after another. I threw away all the brain drugs, and my brain was just rocking for about 6 months before it finally stabilized. And at that point, we were ready to move out and go to California. I went to California to try and build a new life. Me, my daughter, and my son. I had planned to get a job there, but then I got there and there were no jobs to be had, period. There just weren't. My kids were still behind me, but they were inflicted a lot. When you're broken, when you're bleeding, you bleed all over those you love. Now, part of the reason that things were so bad was because we got our house broke into. So I came back to Oklahoma. Then my son got sick, and I spent the next 2 years sleeping on a couch in my father's living room. My life was entirely dedicated to saving my sons. I developed an attitude of gratefulness over that by seeing just what I had to lose, my son, and how close he came to losing his life, all because they didn't understand what his condition was. The entire time, he never got to get up. He never got to go walking. He rarely got to go anywhere like a movie theater. But when we found the allopurinol, and then I talked to the doctors, and they agreed to give it a try, 50% chance that it would have worked, and it did work. Currently, he's still on chemo, and he will be until March of next year. And he is perfectly healthy now. And then I started looking to finally rebuild my life for the first time. It took a while before I was even ready to consider coming out into the world to interact with people, you know. I've always been an entrepreneur. And in order to be an entrepreneur, you find a need and you fill it. During the 3 years that my son was in his crisis, and I was taking care of him, when I wasn't looking at any time, I wasn't looking for answers. Anytime I was relaxing, I would mostly look at the news. I look at the news every morning, but I quit watching regular TV, and I started trying to figure out what was wrong with the whole world instead of just me. So that's what I was doing, looking through the world for something that's broken that I could fix. And I just kept seeing everything was broken. Everything. That's where I started. I quit letting people's thoughts and opinions manipulate my thinking. Started trying to think for myself. And that's what I want to do, is help other people think for themselves. I have enough material through the course of my studies, not just the 3 years, but all the time before that I wanted to put together a few books. But as I started going through it, I rapidly realized, number one, it was going to take me a couple of years even to collate everything. And then the murder of George Floyd happened.
Get in the car.
I can't move.
I've been waiting the whole time, man. Get up, get in the car.
Mama.
Get up and get in the car right.
I can't.
You gave y'all the opportunity to get in, bro. I told you can't win.
My knee.
You can't
My neck.
win, man.
I'm through.
I know you didn't never, you didn't listen.
I'm claustrophobic. My stomach hurts. My neck hurts. Everything hurts. There's some water or something. Please. Please. I can't breathe, officer.
It created a new sense of urgency for me. Instead of writing about religion or politics, all of a sudden I'm writing about racism in America and police brutality. But it still instilled a sense of extreme urgency in me to do something. The murder of George Floyd made me say, enough is enough. That caused me to realize I needed to put it out on a platform. I've established a brand and a platform, and soon we will be producing the Song of Yahweh. Song of Yahweh is a series about Yahweh. It's about God and the authors of the Bible. We're going to look at Christianity at a 45-degree angle. And when we do, I hope that you will see and be freed from the cult or culture of subjugation that we have in our society today. That's my goal, is to allow you to once again own your own thoughts.